Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Larry Holder, theathletic.com/New Orleans, going to have to join us every Tuesday here on the show. How are you, dude?
I'm good. Better than the Superdome, but I'm good today. My house isn't on fire, so that's good.
Hey, do you have any update or insight or information on what's going on?
Yeah, there was a fire that started about 12:30 this afternoon, and according to the Superdome, it was caused by a pressure washer, which I find very ironic because usually water doesn't start fires, but obviously there's gas involved with some of this stuff, and so but they were able to quickly extinguish the fire. It doesn't sound like there's any damage, and it should not affect anything for the Saints when they come back home to the Dome and play on October 3rd. But it certainly caused a buzz here in New Orleans this afternoon.
Well, there were a lot of fire puns as well, considering the way the Saints played this past weekend. That's fantastic news, actually. It doesn't seem like anybody's hurt or it's anything too serious, which is certainly very good news. So where's your panic meter based on what we saw on Sunday?
I'm not ready to panic yet, but the meter exists. It wasn't existing a week ago, but I think this is something that they're somewhere in the middle. I mean, they're not as bad as they were on Sunday, but they're not as great as they were in week one. How close are they to the middle of that, whether they're above that or below that? I think that's something we're going to have to watch in the next couple of weeks, just because, look, offensively, that was arguably the worst performance under Sean Payton ever. As a head coach, the numbers don't lie, the results don't lie. You had the strength of the team falter badly in the offensive line. I know we can come up with plenty of excuses, and in my eyes, they're viable excuses. But this team, we don't know who they are right now, and I think that's the bottom line right now.
I mean, Larry, Sean Payton deflected any of the blame on the coaching absences, the personnel absences, the travel. But that has to matter to some degree. How much did that matter with what we saw on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm worried about how game day was going to go with the lack of coaching. And, that in-game adjustments, getting personnel on and off the field. Because, look, everyone is paying attention to their specific position groups. And when you're lacking all of these people to help do that, it's hard to win against any NFL team, and I think it mattered. There's no question it mattered, and Sean Payton's never going to say that because he says, "Look, no one cares. We lost the game. It doesn't matter how we lost. We just lost." So I get where he's coming from, but any realistic fan of football or follower of football knows the coaches, they matter on game day. There's no doubt about it, and so many injuries within this unit. They matter too. My concern, though, is that there weren't a ton of injuries on offense, and the offense looked just rancid. That's my big thing there.
So you're right, but they were missing Eric McCoy, and so you slide Cesar Ruiz over, and Calvin Throckmorton's in there, and we know the Saints have great tackles, but the interior of that line became a line of backups, and Andrews Pete, who some would have their own comments there, I don't know, Larry. I mean, if we're actually going to sit here and say that the offensive line matters, strength of the team, when you have a musical chair shuffle on the interior, that does matter. They were unable to run the ball, and they couldn't protect Jameis Winston.
And yet they ran the ball with ease against Green Bay.
But that's also, isn't it different? And tell me if you disagree, but isn't it different when a defense has a week to prepare knowing that you have that those changes right there when you have game film to watch of Ruiz and Throckmorton and where they might be vulnerable, as opposed to just doing it on the fly?
I think there is a viable argument there. I'm with you. But also, Carolina is a better team defensively than Green Bay. I mean, I think that's something we've got to acknowledge, that Carolina's improved a little bit more than maybe we gave them credit for in that sense. And yet, though, still, you look at the offense, and I know everyone was raving about Jameis Winston a week ago, but he only threw 20 passes that week, and they didn't ask him to do too much. This week, he only threw 22. This time, he was 11 of 22 with some picks, no touchdowns. And, I think you add it all up, and offensive line's banged up. Jameis is new, and he's still Jameis at times. Alvin Kamara can't do it himself, and the wide receivers are pedestrian wide receivers, let's be honest. So I think the overall scope of the offense is a concern, and you're going up to New England, and you feel like you might have a shot up against New England, but I'm sure Bill Belichick can look at this thing and say, all right, well, we can cause some problems for this Saints offense.
Do they have any options on the roster? I mean, do you know, number one, of the injured players who they might get back this week, and based on that, what options they may have to supplement this roster?
The people that would come back this week would be defensively. Like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he could come back. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore, if he feels like he can play with the hand, he can come back. So I think you can at least get some players back, like Tano Passignon. Defensive end, he could come back. So it's more on the defensive side of football where that will help, just because we know Quan Alexander's out for at least 2 more games. So is Marcus Davenport. So you look at it there, and we know David Onyemata's not coming back for another 4 games. And so you're going to get better on defense. But offensively, McCoy, I expect him to be out still for another couple weeks. And so where does that help come from? On that side of the ball, it's not coming really until you get, say, Tre'Quan Smith and Michael Thomas back.
Could Kenny Stills make an impact?
I just don't see him being a big-time asset. If he was, he'd be on a team. He wouldn't just be on a Saints practice squad right now. So I get the name, and I get that he's been productive at times. I just don't know if he's going to be some big-time asset. When they signed him, I kind of said the same thing. Maybe he shows them something different. I don't know, in practice. But to me, I just think that they kind of are who they are right now, and you got to try to win around the pieces that you have. Is
there something to be said for a guy could maybe thrive in one situation and not another? Like, I mean, Robert Meacham was a first-round pick. I cracked on the guy for years because I just hated the Saints use that pick on him, but he was his most productive in New Orleans, and when he left and went to San Diego, he was never even remotely close to whatever his peak was in New Orleans. Maybe Sean Payton knows how to use Kenny Stills? I mean, I'm reaching here, Larry. I'm hoping
you are. You're
something,
grasping
man.
for straws.
Something.
This sounds like when we were begging for Savior Ted Ginn to return in 2018. He's going to save the day.
Or what about we were begging for PRob and Ken Crawley to be healthy this preseason?
I mean, we are really grasping
at straws
here, my friend. But if he had something, that's my thing. If he had something significant to offer, he'd be on a roster. Like, his role diminished in Miami. He wasn't that good in Houston. I just think that they have to find a way to have Marquez Callaway be like the guy we saw in training camp, because he's been non-existent. You got to try to figure out something with Juwan Johnson. He was really a no threat in this past game. But to me, it comes down to, man, you need that strength to be the strength, and that's to run the football and use the offensive line. And if that can't be your strength, you're going to have to ask Jameis Winston to do more than you want him to do. And as we saw on Sunday, that is not the best recipe, at least against the Panthers, not the best recipe. And any kind of good defense, probably not what you want to have.
All right, so Jameis, how much of it do you put on the pressure? How much of it do you put on him?
I think it's a combination of both. He's got to be the one who has to pick out who's coming from where and direct offensive linemen and pass blocking. So I think that's part of it. But also I think part of it is that Andres Peaches is who he is. I mean, Calvin Throckmorton, he's a backup for a reason. And your tackles had troubles. Look, Ryan Ramczyk, it's not like they faced too many snaps throwing the ball, but he had as many pressures allowed as Andres Pete. They both had 4 pressures allowed. in that game. You don't expect that from your all-pro $18 million tackle. And like even Teron Armstead had an issue at time then again. And look, he had missed blocks on some from some running backs and tight ends, and so it's. I think this is an important week. This week, they've got to figure this thing out. I know Washington can still be beatable, and the Giants, they can still be beatable before you get to the bye week. But I think morale-wise, you've got to figure out something this week. And I'm assuming they're going to have their coaching staff back, but still, you've got to not look totally awful. And that's what that offense looked like last week, totally awful.
Okay, I want to get one positive storyline in here. Payton Turner, the first-round draft pick, actually looked really good. What were your impressions?
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, he had a couple penalties, but the other aspects, who knew he could pull those things off? Good pass rushes and looked strong and looked fast. And so I think that is certainly a positive. And when you look at it, their depth at defensive end is actually pretty good. I thought that might be an issue, but they're at least got some depth there. And I expect after that, you're going to see more Payton Turner. Now, what do you do with 5 defensive ends? You don't play them all on game day, so which one sits? I'm curious to see how Sean Payton handles that. At least it won't be you have to worry about that once Marcus Davenport comes back. But no, Turner looked the part. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I think that's, Matt, I think that is a one good positive storyline. See, no one should ever call you just negative. All I know is you as a positive guy.
I'll give you another one. They blocked a field goal.
This is true. And then what? They couldn't turn it into anything? Yes, they did.
See, there you go. You're so negative. And Blake Gilligan punted the ball really. He boomed a 60-yarder.
I thought you were going to name Gilligan first, to be honest with you. So I'm always thinking, look, at least because I remember tweeting during the game, Blake Gilligan MVP, because he kind of was. He at least gave them a shot that the Panthers, the Sam Darnold-led Panthers offense had to march all the way down the field to score. But look, Gilligan, at least he's a little bit of a game changer. If you got to lean on him every week, though, that means your offense isn't doing its job either.
That was basically Thomas Morstead in 2012. He was the best player on the team. That was the Bounty Gate year, but week in and week out, he was the only thing that consistently made games close because, as you just said, he made teams go the length of the field over and over again. And they did against that defense over and over again. But
they went down the field. There's no doubt about that. Steve Spagnuolo, yep. That was a miserable year for that defense.
It was. Here's hoping this year turns around starting this Sunday up in Foxborough. He's Larry Holder on Twitter, at Larry Holder, theathletic.com/New Orleans. Check out his stuff. Thank you, Larry.
All right, Matthew. Talk to you next week.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.